We're going to start this morning now. Welcome to everyone that's joined. My name's Sonia. I'm from RHCompass. Just to let you know, we are recording the session today so that it can be distributed to the wider network for Rain and Horn for those officers that couldn't attend this morning. So just bear that in mind. If you do have any questions, there is a section there for you to ask the questions. You can either type them or you can enable your audio and ask a question as you need to as well. Today's focus, we're going to be putting some contacts in, having a look at the category side of things, and also adding in some open home feedback as well. So if you have any questions, let me know, ask all the way through, or you can wait till the end and we can recap anything that you need to as well. So we're going to, as I said, focus on adding a contact in. Now, there's a couple of different ways that we can add a contact into the system. The first one that we're going to have a look at is through the contacts and the quick inquiry wizard. So this is designed for the ability to load out and send out emails to clients that aren't necessarily a contact in your database, but you want to send them out a stock list or a rental list, but their contact details aren't in the system. You want to send it out nice and quick. So under contacts, we went to quick inquiry wizard. In here, we can type in the contact's first name and last name and an email address. So they are the 3 points of contact that we must have for them to be able to send this particular email. Obviously, an email address it has to be done because we're sending an email. So I'm just going to put in my email address there for today. You can choose to copy yourself in on what you're sending, because there's nothing worse than sending emails out and not knowing what's being sent. So there is that opportunity there to include yourself, or even if an admin's doing it on behalf of a sales rep, they can copy the sales rep in so they know that what's being sent through to their contacts. We've got some wording on the email. You can use your Office predefined templates, but we've put in some standard text in there. You can actually come in here and edit that particular text. This particular email is designed to send out, as I said, a stock list of all your listings or hand-picked listings to a particular contact. So you can edit the wording in that particular email. Then down the bottom, we can choose to include whatever property types that we want. So it is broken down for residential, commercial, business and rural, and obviously the different types of properties and rental properties as well. Okay, so for today's exercise on the demo database that we're logged into, I'm just going to choose residential for sale. You can then choose your property type. So if someone's looking for land properties, we can choose to include all our land properties. Or in this case, because it's a demo database, I'm just going to choose to show all our house properties. We can then go through and hand pick our properties to include on our email. And on the right-hand side, what happens is the particular email starts to get built. So we can actually see what the email looks like before we actually send it. There are a couple of different templates in there, so there are different layouts that we can choose if we wanted to change the layout. Okay. Once you're happy to send that particular email out, down the bottom you've just got the send email button. Now, as I said, this particular contact doesn't already exist in your database. So what will happen is we can send the email. That email is now being sent to that particular contact, and the system's asking you, because you've sent that email, do we now want to add that particular contact into our database? Obviously, as we talk to contacts a little bit more over the phone and we get a little bit more information and build a conversation up, you're probably getting a little bit more information to warrant adding them into the database. So it is designed as a quick inquiry, so you're just adding the bare minimum information to send them that email. But then we do give you that opportunity to add that contact further. So do we want to add this contact to our database? If we tick yes. We've got our contact details, our email address. Now it is a wizard, we're not adding in phone numbers or anything like that on this particular page. It's just the bare minimum information to load that particular contact in. Now first of all, it will duplicate check that contact in your database. Depending on your access levels, you may or may not be able to add that particular contact in. So this one's saying, yep, there's an existing contact found. You can update the existing contact or create a new one. So for today's exercise, we're just going to create a brand new contact. And then underneath, based on the properties that we were sending that particular client, the system can automatically put in a buyer requirement. So we can tell the system what this particular contact is looking for based on the property examples that we've just sent through to them. It's you've got a minimum price and a maximum price, and that's based on the listing price of the property and either 10 or 15% either side of that listing price. So that's why the numbers look a little bit odd. You can always go back in here at a later date and manipulate the information to be a bit more targeted as you want to. You can choose to include a buyer requirement for all three of those particular properties, or alternatively, we don't have to add anything in there at all. Okay, so we're just going to insert or update that particular contact. Because I've chosen to add this particular contact in as brand new, we're going to add that contact. So that's one way you can add your contact into the database. As I said before, it is a wizard, so you're not capturing any further information. If you wanted to add in their phone numbers, their partner's details and the address that they live in, if you click here, that'll take you through to the full contact screen. We'll have a look at that a little bit later this morning. So that's one way of sending out an email or adding a contact into your database. We've also got, under the contact button, we've got the add contact. Okay, so or add contact with it, it's up to you. If we press the add contact, one of the new facilities is the ability to add in either a person or a contact or a company. So for those commercial agents, you can actually choose to load in a company as opposed to a contact. You're just sort of changing that top contact type from person to company. So today we're just going to add in a normal residential purchaser, so a contact. So we're going to leave that as a person for today. Now, every contact that you add into the system, it's mandatory that you add in their first name, surname, and a point of contact. So a point of contact is either an email address or a phone number. Now, our system will prompt you to add that information in there. So for today, we're just going to add our contact in. Now, what you'll find down the bottom here is the system will duplicate check. So it's actually going to search the database to see if that particular contact already exists. Because we only really want one version of the contact in our database. We don't want lots and lots of the same contact with different bits of information in there. So if the contact already exists in your database, you can click on the View Potential Duplicates and actually then go into that particular contact and add and edit that further information. What we're going to do today is add in a brand new contact. So if I change that first name, you'll see now that there's no duplicate contact for that particular contact. Okay, we can add in the email address. Okay, if they are part of a company, you can put in their company details, a phone number for that contact. Now, you don't have to, but I recommend when you're adding in a phone number that your whole office is consistent with the way that you put the phone number in there. You can actually search on a contact based on their phone number, but you can only search it the same way that you put it in there. So if you put in spaces like they do on Telstra, the industry standard formatting for a phone number, obviously you need to be consistent with your office if you're searching for phone numbers. Same as like home phone numbers, you must put in the area code. And then again, if you're putting in the spaces, make sure that your whole office is consistent with the spaces that you're putting in there. Just makes it easier to look for. Also, when you're actually going to call that person, when you look at the screen, it's a lot easier to look through as well. Now, this particular field here is quite an underutilised field because no one really knows what it's used for. So what it's asking for is where does this particular contact live? What's their location? It doesn't feed through too much to the contact screen. It is captured so that we can actually see the location of all our prospective purchasers or owners or anything like that. What it feeds through to, so it's asking the suburb or the postcode where the contact lives. Under reports, you have a client origination report. So this will create a heat map of where all your prospective purchasers are coming from. So over here in WA, we have a lot of people that work away or live away in remote areas. So we can actually see where these contact people are coming from that are buying in different areas. And obviously if something, if a property is listed locally, and a lot of people in that area are coming from an out-of-town area, you can then market to that particular newspaper. So as I said, mining's quite big here in WA. We've got a lot of out-of-town purchases. Newman is quite where a lot of money is at the moment, so we could start advertising a unique property up in the Newman newspapers and things like that. So that's what that particular field for suburban postcode is. So again, it was under reports. Okay, and it was client origination report. That's where that property contact information feeds through to. Okay, then it's asking whether we're adding in a prospective buyer, tenant, or other. So generally, if we're adding in purchasers, we'll probably add it in this way. If we're adding in a vendor, so a contact attached to a property, we'll probably add it in through the Add Property wizard. So generally, by default, the prospective tenant and buyer option is always default ticked. We've got the global database here. So this is a Rain and Horn specific tool. What will happen is if this checkbox is ticked, the contact will be added into the Rain and Horn global database. So what that is a central location where all prospective purchasers go. If they've got a buyer rent requirement in there, potentially what will happen is if a property matches that buyer requirement, it doesn't matter what office they belong to, they can potentially get an email to say, we've just listed this property, it meets your requirements. So it's a fantastic tool for vendors. So if you're trying to get vendors on, because at the end of the day, the whole group, the Rain and Horn group, is working for that particular vendor. So that's what that global database is ticked. Once the contact's been added to the global database, there's no way of getting them out. All you can do is that they can unsubscribe from being in the global database. Okay. You've then got the RH Assist checkbox. And then we've got our add buyer requirements. So adding this contact in from scratch, we can tell the system what this particular client is looking for. So today I'm just trying to cover a lot of the basics off. We're not going to go into too much detail with some fields. I'm just going to try and get you to add in your contacts to start off with. So we've got the add requirement. We can actually choose the suburb that they're looking for. So if we type in the suburb, okay, we can add multiple suburbs that they're looking for. Okay, and we can set a requirement based on that. We can also put in a price range, a property type. If we leave it as residential for sale, we can then choose beds, baths, cars. If we're choosing commercial, obviously the options change as well. So we do have that flexibility in there for you. Okay. When you start to add contacts in there, what you'll find is you'll probably put in very broad information. You might just put in the suburb and maybe a price range. But as you build your database up, you'll probably find that you'll be very targeted with what you're putting in here for people's requirements. And that way, if you are targeted, you're not going to spam them with properties that aren't really relevant to them. And obviously, if you're sending them irrelevant information, they'll unsubscribe a lot quicker, and you'll have a lot more unsubscribes as well. So I suggest you do actually start being quite targeted what you put into the system. Be specific with what they're looking for. Okay, so that's the add requirements option. On the right-hand side, we've got this notion here for pre-registered buyers. This is if you've got a contact that you're dealing with and there's a home open coming up on a weekend and they have already shown interest in attending the home open. So pre-registered buyer means that they've shown interest and are probably going to come through that particular home open on the weekend. So we can tick that they're a pre-registered buyer. Okay, so we know that they're going to come through the home open. We can select the property that they're going to come through on the home open. So if this property had any home opens, we can choose the date and the time that they're coming through on the home open. What will happen is when we sync this information, so we have our Agent Toolbox app on for iPads, the home open app, you can sync this system and it will send those contact details through to the iPad app so that they're pre-registered and their information is pre-populated ready for the home open. So that's what a pre-registered buyer means. Okay. Now we've got the quick attendance as well. So what this one does is basically, if we're adding in that a contact came through a home open, we can say that they set it as a quick attendance. And what that means is they came through the home open, but we didn't have enough time to talk to them. We didn't get a lot more information out of them. We don't know what their budget is. We don't really know what they're looking for. Because on occasion, some home opens do get very, very busy very quickly. and you don't always have time to talk to anyone. So that's what the quick attendance means. So what we're going to do today is add a purchaser in that has come through on a particular home open. Down the bottom here, we can actually change our note type, which I'll come back and revisit in a minute. But we're going to say this particular contact came through a home open, and we can then type in a street number and a street name, and it will locate the property within your database. Okay, so this is a property in our database. We can say that they came through a home open, and we can actually add in our feedback. Now, bear in mind what you type in here will be visible on your vendor feedback that you can potentially give to the vendor. So make sure that you use proper grammar, proper spelling, and what you write in there is appropriate to be passing to a vendor. So for this one, we can say came through home open. Okay, liked the home, but found okay, a little small. Okay, so that's the information that we can then pass back to the vendor. So you can say that they came through a home open, that was the property, that was the date that they came through the home open. Now we've also got what we call a price opinion. So this price opinion will create a graph on the vendor report for the property, and it will pitch it against the listing price. Because quite often our vendors will say, you know, the property's offered at $700,000. It's been sitting there for a couple of weeks and we want to go in and get a price change, and the vendors will say, no, well, you know, that's what I want it for. You can actually then show them a graph to say this is what the market is giving the feedback as to what the property is worth. So the price opinion field, we can say, so the property is listed at $700,000. We can say that this particular contact said it was worth $680 if they put an offer in. Now this is what the contact said it was worth, not what us as sales reps or what we want to feed back to the vendor. This is what the purchaser is saying. It's just straight numbers in there. Don't put any words or full stops or anything like that, because that will skew the graph when you come to create it. You need to make sure that you put in the straight numbers. You can also set a reminder for the system to give you a task reminder down the track just to touch base with that particular contact if you want to. Or alternatively, you can then use things like action plans and setting reminders and things like that to follow up with the client as well. Once we've added in our contact information, we can add that note, okay? And that note's been added to that particular contact, ready for when we load the contact in. If that contact came through a couple of different home opens, we've added that particular note in. We can then come back and say they went through another property. Okay, and we can add in further feedback from that other home open that they've been through. As I said, there are different note types here. So this is the default one that we're going to add in here is home open inspection feedback. You may have had a private inspection with a particular contact. So you can choose that it's a private inspection. And again, all the same information is there. You can choose the property, the date that they had their private inspection, and what they thought the property was worth. You can say that they walked in and inquired on a particular office as well, on a particular property. We've got a general note type in there as well. Email feedback, so if someone's emailed and inquired on the property, we can put in their contact and add any email feedback. If they phoned in, if any contracts have been issued on the property, or even if they submitted an offer, we can actually say this contact submitted an offer at $650, now awaiting vendor approval. Again, this information will go through to the vendor report, so you need to make sure what you put in there is very clear and the spelling's correct, and again, that the vendor, it's not rude or anything like that for the vendor. And then we add the note. You can see there we've got additional note types, notes in there. You can click on a note and go back and edit it if you need to. And you can alternatively remove the note if you've put something in there that you didn't need to. So this is just adding in our prospective purchases. Okay. Now, the bottom left-hand corner is rather important. Now, every office is slightly different how they operate with access to contacts. So first point of contact basically means who owns the contact. If the commission was to be paid on the property, who would get that commission? That's the easiest way I can explain that. Then you've got the accessible buyer, so who has access to the contact. So if you have a closed database and you don't share your purchases in the office, so once a contact deals with someone, they deal with that person for the rest of the life of that sale or that contact. That's what we call a closed database. You need to make sure that you're in the accessible by. Okay, so don't worry about what admin access have access to, because they'll have the right access when they need to put properties under offer and things like that. But as a sales rep, you need to make sure that your accessible by details are selected in there. If you have an open database where your whole office shares all the contacts, you can tick for everyone to have access. So it's a nice, quick, easy way. Now, I've left this one for one of the last options on the contact screen. The categories that your database falls within are some of the most important things that you need to be wary of for a sales rep when it comes to categorising your database. We don't add in purchasers, vendors, tenants, landlords, developers, anything like that. We add in contacts. What associates them as a vendor or a prospective vendor or purchaser or prospective purchaser is your client categories. So your office can create some. So the green ones are created by the office and the grey ones are created by RHCompass. They're system standard-wide categories. We can't change them because there are rules behind them. So when a vendor is attached and the property is settled, the vendor is detached and their category then becomes from vendor to past owner. Okay, so the system will automatically do that for you. But if you're wanting to send out emails, mark someone as a prospective purchaser, if they're a cashed up buyer or they're a finance approved, even a first home buyer, all those categories are very important because you can market to those and you market different things to those contacts. So when you come in here, you can select multiple categories for your database. Okay, I'm just holding the control button down. There's a little grey note there for you. Just pressing the control button down and selecting the categories that you want that contact to fall within. So if you come and do a buyer match, so you're going to match this contact on any properties in your database, obviously you need to be very careful what client categories that you choose. So that's one of the reasons that you choose your categories. As I said before, your office can create some that are standard for your office, and we've already put some grey ones already in there for you. Now the last option on this particular page is the source of inquiry, so where your contact came from. Now we encourage officers to be very specific where your clients are coming from. Don't just choose that they've come through on the newspaper or they've come through on a website. Be very specific what newspaper, what website that they came through. Now there's two reasons for that. One, as a business owner, quite often marketing costs and things like that can blow out. They're the biggest expense of a real estate agent. We can come in here and generate a report on what is the most common method of a contact coming through to us, so whether they've inquired through a home open, through a newspaper or a website. Best example I've got is the age-old argument, domain versus realestate.com. If you want to know what website's working for you, obviously if you're adding every contact in there and you're defining that they're coming off a website, you can then see if realestate.com or domain is working for your particular area. Okay, same as your newspapers. Some agents prefer to advertise in particular newspapers. So that's for the agency side. You're also capturing vendor paid advertising from your vendors. You can create a graph and show them what works for your particular area, because some vendors get a notion in their head that particular advertising mediums will work for them. Same as, like, a normal sign versus a photo sign. If a photo sign works in your area, you can obviously come in and grab this information and print off a graph for that vendor. It also goes through to their vendor reporting as well, where their inquiries are coming from for their particular property. So it's a really good tool for target marketing. Okay, now it is a mandatory field. You do actually have to choose a source of inquiry where that particular contact has come from. So this was just a wizard. We're only adding in basic information on this screen, unfortunately. So if we hit the submit details, the system's going to add that particular contact into our system now. Okay, so the contact has now been added in. We want to go and have a look at that contact now. So we can actually then click on match the properties, which we'll come back to. We've got the full contact details screen. We can add another contact, or we can actually go through and send this contact a particular email. What I'm going to do today is we're going to go into the contact details screen. and run through the contact information on this particular screen. So as we added in before, when we had the contact screen, we've got the Rain & Horne Financial Services option. We've got the Rain & Horne Global Database. As I said, once the contact's gone over to the Global Database, you cannot get them out. You can't untick them to remove them. We can change it from a person to a company if we need to, if we've added in the wrong information. Now, the more information that you put into your client database, obviously the better it's going to be and more valuable it's going to be to you in the long term. If you're going to start sending out merged letters, emails and things like that, always come back and add in your letter greeting and your envelope greeting. So your letter greeting might be Derek and Sue. Okay, because when you're sending a letter out, you want it to be nice and formal. Your envelope greeting will be Mr. Wellesby, and that's right. Okay. As you saw when we added the contact in on the previous screen, we could only add in one contact. We couldn't add in partners' details or the rest of this information. So it is important that you come back and review the rest of the contact information when you get a chance. So I'm going to put in Sue. Okay, so we've got our contact and our partners' details. Now you have a legal description here. The best example that I can give you, well, this one's used for when a property goes under offer or you've listed it. It's not merged anywhere in the system except it'll go on your instruction history sheet. So the best example that I can give you for the legal description is all of this information's gone through to Sue. Her full name is actually Suzanne. She doesn't want to be referred to that. She doesn't want to receive any communication as that. But her legal description that's on her title is Suzanne Wright. Okay, so you can put in that information in there for that legal description. Okay, so we can go Derek Wellesby and Sue Wright. So that will go on the instruction sheet for the settlement agent so that when they're looking for the title, they can actually see that information. Or if they're going to add the information to a title, they know what the legal description is. But obviously all our communication that's being directed is just going to be titled as Sue. So that's what the legal description means. You've got the company details, ABN, ACN details if you want to put in that information if it's relating to a trust or anything like that, or a company. You've got the position. Then we've got our contact phone details. So we've got a home number and a work number. We've got fax and another work secondary number. And then we've got two mobile numbers there. So you can actually put in Sue's mobile number in there as well if you need to, a secondary mobile. Now, previously you could only add in one row of email addresses. So quite often what you would do is if you had two email addresses, you would type in the first email address, put a comma in, and then type in the second email address. You don't need to do that anymore. We now have multiple email address fields. So we can actually go in there and add our second email address. Okay, so we've got 1 and 2, and then we can add in that. So we've got the two email addresses now. So then we've got, once your email address and our phone number, if you put a mobile number in there, you can then go and send that particular contact an email straight from that particular to that particular contact. So we've just got the send email button there. So if you want one-on-one communication to the particular contact, and then you can go through to there. Alternatively, if you wanted to send a nice formatted email with properties on there, you can send a market report. Okay, you can choose your template and build your template and then send that over. Okay, if we hit the send email, you can hand type in your email. You can CC yourself, BCC someone in there as well. You can choose from a template if your office has already got some templates in there, or you can hand write the particular email. If you've loaded up attachments on your particular property, you can include attachments as well, or alternatively, you can load an attachment straight off your computer. Okay. You then got the password option. That's if you're using the vendor login, which most offices tend not to do now. You can load in some website details and social media handles if you're quite a strong social media office. We've then got those particular address details. So if we're loading in a purchaser, we can load in their address details. They may tell us that information if they want an appraisal done on a particular property. You've then got your postal address details as well. So as I said, there's a lot of information on this contact screen, but your database will become valuable with you putting more information in there. We've got our first point of contact. So as I said before, this is quite important as to who owns the particular contact. Your office can break it down so that sales will deal with one person, rentals will deal with someone else, and commercial and rural will deal with other people. You've got your accessible by option there, so you can, your name will be in there and your office will be able to add other staff members to access that particular contact if you need to. Now, your office is a new facility. It's only been available for the last couple of weeks. Your office has the ability to create custom fields on your contact screen. So these ones here, these waterfront ones, I'm going to ignore for the moment because they're not really contact related. But you can add in custom fields for your office. So if things that are important to that particular contact, like the number of children that they might have, their children's name, date of birth if you wanted to do, your office can create these custom fields. Religion's another one that we're seeing there on the East Coast, because obviously there are pockets where they want to be close to particular shrines and things like that, so you can actually add that information in there. Okay. Across the top, to add those custom data fields, your office needs to go to System Admin. Okay, and then they can set up contact fields. Now, as I said, it's only been available for a few weeks. Unfortunately, I haven't got too many examples to give you on the contact fields, except for the religion was one. And obviously, this account has some family, so number of children, things like that. This particular field information is available on the property screen as well, so you can add in custom property fields. But recently, we've done it for the contacts. You've got your anniversary date, so your birthdays, settlement anniversaries and things like that you can define. You can come back in there and generate that information. Across the top, if you're setting anniversary dates, under contacts, you've got your anniversary report there as well. So you can actually generate a report for that month or that year or a date range based on those particular anniversaries. Okay. Now, every bulk email that gets sent out of the system must, by law, have an unsubscribe option on there. So all your emails that go out of Compass will have that ready for you. When a client unsubscribes, the system will automatically come in here and exclude them from any future emails, and it will also email you and the office to say that they've unsubscribed. Okay. They can choose specifically what they want to unsubscribe from, or they can unsubscribe from everything. Then down the bottom we've got if they're on the Do Not Call register, if they're post preferred, or if they're archived. You can archive a client and they'll be excluded from any visual information, but they are still in your database. You can still search for archived contacts. Ideally, we don't want you deleting contacts because they may come back around again, so we just suggest that you archive them. Same as if you delete them and they've sold a property or bought a property, you'll obviously lose that history for that client as well. So archiving them is the better option. And then you've got the Heard About Us option down the bottom here. Okay, so up the top, if we want to update the contact information, we want to save the information that we've changed on that particular client, we can just press the Update button, and that'll save those contact details. And I'll just take you through to the category button screen, which we'll come back to. If I just click on the contact details, all our contact information is there on that particular screen. On the right-hand side, this yellow area was released a little while ago. Rather than going into the notes section and adding in a note that you've had a phone call with them, we've now given you the ability to press the phone call button. And if you've spoken with them, you can press the phone call button, add in a note, and a reminder if you want to. And what will happen is that note will actually then get saved against that particular contact. So it's just a quick link, rather than going into notes and then adding that you've had a conversation with them. Pre-registered buyers, as we were discussing before, if we know that they're going to come through a home open, we can pre-register them. We've got our R score, so our relationship score option there as well, which I'm not going to focus too much on today. More importantly, we've got our categories. So these are the categories that the client is associated with. As I said, our categories are really important because that's how we market to our database. We choose the categories that we're going to send it to. Same as if we're going to match a property with the contacts in our database, it's all based on categories. So your categories are really important, and it's always key to periodically come in here and update and make sure everything's relevant. And then we've got the last 10 notes on the particular client with what's going on. So this morning we added them through the contact wizard. We said that they came through a home open, they've submitted an offer, they added to the global database, and we just had to change their legal description details. So the notes are automatically building there for you. Okay, across the top, as I said before, we've got our notes button, so we can add in further notes for this particular client. So as I ran through before on the add contact screen, we've got the different note types. So if they came through on another home open a week later, we can come in here and add that note. Same as phone in, walk-in inquiry and things like that. Down the bottom is our note log, so our history of all the notes. Our support team will always come in here and generally look at the notes to see what's happened. So if you say something's happened to a particular contact or even a property for that matter, our support team, the first thing that they'll generally do is come into the notes and see what happened and who did it. So this is where we can see all that information. If I go back, if I just click back, so we're back on that contact screen. If we need to update the client categories, we want to add the contact to further categories, we're just pressing the categories button. Okay, and we can add and remove them from categories if we want to. Okay, as I said, the green ones are the ones that your office has put in. The white or grey ones are the standard ones that Compass has put into the system. Across the top, we can see the categories that they're attached to, and then we're just saving that. As I said before, it's really important to periodically come back here, revisit the categories that your clients fall within so that you're not sending them marketing that's irrelevant. And back to our contact screen. We've got, I'll come back to the buyer rent requirements because it's quite an interesting area. If your office has put in some letters, you can merge the letters. You're just pressing the document library, selecting the letter, and then that'll merge for you, but your office needs to make sure that they've put those letters in there for you. Every contact and every property has the ability for you to attach files. So for a contact, you might want to attach their 100-point ID check if you've done one of those. So we're giving you that opportunity there to do that. Okay, so you're just clicking and dragging to attach those files. We've got the match listing. So as we put in our buyer rent requirement earlier, we can match that contact on any properties in our database. Okay, so there's not many properties in this database, it's a demo database. Okay, you can then print or email that out to someone. So if someone's phoned in and they wanted a list of properties that we've got between 400,000 and 500,000 in the suburb, you can add in a buy rent requirement and match that and then email that out. Okay, we've got, most of these buttons are all old buttons that are starting to go. We've got a relationships button. We can add a property to the contact if we've done an appraisal. Campaigns, we can actually see what emails that we've sent out to the client, but they're also available in the notes section as well. We've got a history, so if they've sold or purchased the property, the history will be there as well. If there's a referral, we can actually choose an office that we want to refer that client to as well. So Brain and Horn have a referral system internally. Okay, yep. An office has asked about adding client categories, so I'll just come back to that in a second. We can merge your contacts, so if you've found that you've got two contacts in there that are the same information, you can actually merge your contact. As I said before, you only really want to have one version of the contact, and you can see what pending SMSs are there. Now the bank details option, I'm not going to cover that because that's for a new feature for the ABA files and it's only in relation to sales trust. Most of you won't have that option there. Now to load client categories, because I've said before, your categories are really important. So your office can create categories and the white ones are ones that we've got. Under System Admin, your office can create categories. So we can set up client categories. Okay, you're just typing in the category. You can make it so that everyone has access to those particular categories, but we've also given you the ability to create categories that are specific to a sales rep. So you as a sales rep may have your own client categories that you work with. You might be set up slightly different to other staff in the office. So your admin staff can create categories just for you. And then we can modify the categories if we need to at a later date. Okay, it's as simple as going to System Admin and then set up client categories. Let's just go back to our client. Okay. Now, the last option on this contact screen that I really wanted to focus on is your buyer rent requirements. Okay, so you've added the contact in, they're a purchaser. What can we do with all that information? So we've added in our client. When we added our client in, we said that this client was looking in a couple of different suburbs. We've put in a requirement in there, and as I said, some of the figures are slightly a bit funny because they've come in off the listing price and it's gone 10 to 15% either side. You can come in here and edit that requirement. You can add a brand new requirement, or you can delete a requirement if you need to. So let's go in here and edit this particular client's requirement. Okay, they're looking at one suburb. We can go and add in there that they're looking at a whole heap of different suburbs. We're just typing in the suburb, adding it to the right-hand side. Typing in the suburb. I'm trying to think of suburbs where there might be some properties that might match. Okay, we can then extend the price range, so we can actually say that they're looking for $550,000 right up to $900,000. Okay, as I said, with your database, you'll probably find that you'll actually be very specific with the requirements that you put in there, because you don't want to be spamming them with information. You want to target the information so that they're going to show some interest in there and they're not going to unsubscribe. You can then say that they're looking for a house with 4 bedrooms or more, but 2 bathrooms or more. We can put in a land area if you wanted to as well, and we can add in any comments. We can then update that requirement or remove it if we need to. So if we update that requirement, we can see in there that we've got a little bit more information in there. That means this particular requirement underneath here, this one here, we can actually remove that because we've included that in the above requirement. So we've only got one requirement in there now. So what will happen is we can then go and match the listings again, which we did earlier, and we can see if there's any properties in our database that match what this particular client is looking for. It's a demo account, so obviously the matching's been very limited. What we can do is create some set and forget emails based on that requirement. So what you'll find is a client might go onto realestate.com and they can actually register to be emailed any new listings or price changes or home opens that meet their requirement. They'll get a list of properties from the entire area that they live in. So they'll get properties from all agents. You want to be ahead of the market. You want to send that email to them with just your office's information. So you can set your own property alert. As long as the client has a buyer requirement in there, across the top you can go to property alerts. So to get there, we need to go into our contact screen. So we bring up our contact. We go into our buyer rent requirements. We make sure that they've got a requirement set. And then across the top, we've got the property alerts option. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to send them an email. They're only going to get an email if something happens in your database that meets their requirement. So as I said, it needs to be very specific. Okay. So if something for sale comes up in that price range in those suburbs, they'll get an email to say that that's happened. You can include new listings, home opens, price changes, options, but even your sales as well. You can choose, you're customising the email to be sent to them. You can choose how often you send that email. Okay, I wouldn't suggest that you send something to them daily, because if a lot happens in your database and you're only still in a couple of areas, you'll soon start sending them a lot of information. You can do it weekly. Okay, so you can choose the day that you send it. Now, my recommendation is that you don't send it on Thursday. The industry standard is to send everything on a Thursday, so everyone gets all these emails on a Thursday. No matter what, that's the busiest day for sending out marketing. I suggest that you probably send something on a Wednesday. The only problem with sending things on a Wednesday is you need to be organised. So when I say that you need to be organised, if you're sending out home opens, you need to make sure that your home opens are in there before Wednesday so that they've got it for that week, because you're sending it out weekly. Okay, so you do need to be organised. If you're sending it out fortnightly and you're including home opens, again, you need to be super organised to get your home opens in there 2 weeks in advance. Now, generally, that's not going to happen for most agents, so you probably are looking at sending something weekly. Okay, so just bear in mind with the frequency, if you send daily, they may get quite a lot of emails. Weekly is not too bad. Probably wouldn't send something on a Thursday. And fortnightly, you need to be really organised with your home opens. So just bear that in mind. You can give the alert a name, so you can customise the alert. Say it's Derek's Properties. Okay, for those offices that are joined together, so I don't think there's too many of them in South Australia, but you can join 2 offices together if they're owned by the same person. You can share the properties across the office. That's what include properties from, if you see that through the office and multi-office. We can give the alert a name, so we've given the alert a name, but the email subject line is different. Okay, so that's the email subject that gets sent. And then you've got your letter greeting. Now, it's a pet hate of mine. If you sat through a few of my training sessions, I will always tell you, everywhere you see the words market update, get rid of them. It's an industry standard, or it's not even just an industry standard terminology. It doesn't matter. Everyone has their own market update. So I've noticed on the news, or not on the news, on the radio and on TV, Woolworths have their weekly market update. So if you're sending things out with the words market update, our spam filters are being trained to search for certain terminology, frequent terminology. Market updates are one of them. So if you're sending emails out with market update, you're increasing your chance of that email not going through to the recipient, that the junk mail filters will capture it before it goes through. Okay. Superannuation sends out market updates. Real estate sends out market updates. Banking sends out market updates. As I said, Woolworths have their market update, and I noticed that the TAB even send out a market update. So there is so many market updates out there. Customise your emails to something very specific to the client. If you can include their names in that particular information, you're going to increase that. So I'm not going to harp on about that too much, but it's just a pet hate of mine that I try and share that information as where I can. You've got your footer text as well, so who it's coming from. Now, if an admin's doing this on behalf of a sales rep, you can send a BC, you can choose who the sender is. Okay, so if an admin's setting it up. Also, because this is a set and forget email, the emails are automatically going to go on that day if something happens. I recommend that you check the box to receive a copy of this email. There's nothing worse than the system automatically sending out emails and then you get a phone call from a prospective purchaser 3 months down the track saying you sent me an email, I want to have a look. So you want to make sure you know what's being sent out to your database. So always BCC yourself in and then hit submit. Okay. Now, every week, every second Sunday, an email is now going to go out to that particular contact. All right, someone just asked, when someone subscribes, is it possible for Compass to remove their property alerts as well? I will have to double check that. That's probably a really good point to put to the support team. So I'll just make a note of that. Thanks, Cassandra. I don't think that's come up to our support team before, so let me just make a note of that. So basically what Cassandra's saying is when someone unsubscribes, the property alerts will still run, so you do need to make sure that you come in here and remove the property alerts if someone's unsubscribed. But I will put that through to the support team, so thank you. Okay. And then that is back to the contact screen. That's basically it today for that actual contact screen. So does anyone have any questions? Is there something that you want me to cover more specifically? The audio was open. I noticed that quite a few of you muted yourself, so you can actually, yep, Amber just reminded me about rest. So, yeah, open up your audio, ask me some questions. Amber just reminded that we want to run through REST Connect. So basically, for those of you that do use REST for your property management, from my understanding, REST doesn't have a very strong marketing side of things. So what you can do is you can send your contacts from REST, so your tenants and landlords all have contact records in REST. You can send those contact records over into my desktop. They'll create a contact into my desktop, and then you can then mark it out to those people as you would through for your sales leads and emails and things like that. So to set up REST Connect, you need to contact REST first. Let them know you're using desktop and that you want to set up REST Connect. You want to send your contacts or your tenants and your landlords over to RHCompass. Okay, so you initiate that. Then what will happen is the contacts will sync. So you do need to manually sync those contacts over to RHCompass periodically so that we've got the up-to-date information, and then you can mark it out and send those contact information. So it's a really strong point for those businesses that are at their business development stage. They're wanting to build up their property management quite, they want to build up their information and their property management department quite quickly. So you can use, obviously, our systems to mark it out too. So that's what REST Connect is. Cassandra just asked a question about what the different levels are in the notes section. So there's different coloured notes. So under the notes, if we have a look in there, I touched briefly on, or I touched through what the home opens, the private inspection ones were, phone call priority note. Now there's level 1, level 2, level 3. There, your office can use those as you need to. You can't change the name of them or anything like that. It's just basically, you could say level 1 was a finance note, level 2 could be a property management note, and level 3 could be a really, you know, we've got priority notes there anyway, but it could mean something else. There's no real reason for what these notes do. They don't do anything other than you can just add in different note levels. Okay, they're just they've been around for years. What we've done now is we've actually made note types that do things. Any other questions? What I'll do is I'll hang around for a couple more minutes, so if you do have any questions, just ask away. Alternatively, thank you for joining the session today. If you have any questions later on that have stemmed from this or anywhere else in the system, don't forget up the top is that little question mark icon. You can just press that and log a support ticket as well. So thank you for joining, and if you do have any more questions, okay, all right, so Amber's asked another question. How can you search for contacts in a particular category? So if you're wanting to search for your contacts in categories, under contacts, you've got your CCR tool. So the ability to search for contacts in bulk or by category, by street number or street name or anything like that. So all I did was go to contacts and then CCR tool. Okay. And in here, you can search for contacts that belong to a staff member, if contacts is your street number, in a suburb, or more importantly, if you want to see what contacts are in it, if you want to see what contacts are in your Christmas card list, you select to show the categories, what categories, and then down below you can search the contacts in that particular category. Okay. If you're going to search contacts with a particular buyer rent requirement, they're looking for a particular suburb or anything like that, you can filter out that option there as well. So these search filters are always being added to, so just keep an eye out when you're next time in there looking for contacts or wanting to search for contacts with a particular requirement in mind or search criteria. The CCR tool is where you do that. So it's under contacts and then CCR tool. Okay, so has anyone got any other questions? As I said, the audio is open to everyone, so if you've got any questions, you can ask away. Well, thanks for joining. If you do have any questions, let us know. Thank you.